Hello, world. Goodbye.
Short and sweet.
Short and sweet. Okay, so we just drove in today. Hello, wave back. Wave
Hi.
to everybody. Hi. We are back, and now the room is even more trashed because we came in and just dropped everything.
Yeah. I'll clean it tomorrow.
We missed last week, so we figured we shouldn't miss this week, correct?
Right. Yep.
Yes. Oh, wait. First, car drawing.
Huh? Oh, car drawing. Yeah, so hi.
Yes. So
we were driving up, and because I can't stand to sit idle in a car for any length of time, I started working on this in the car. I was going on a kind of a painting retreat, so I wanted to have something to work on. So I did probably 80-90% of this in the car, and that's the dog wanting to.
Hold on, sorry. I shut the light on the dog. We have to let him in, sorry. Hello, dog. Hang on. Sorry, guys. Come on. Go. Go, crazy dog. Oh my God, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I didn't think the dog was still out.
Actually, did a lot of stuff in the car this time.
You did a lot in the car. Wait, let me get a close up of that. Scooter. Hold on.
Can you see it?
Yes, look at it. This
So-
is just regular Strathmore?
This is just Strathmore medium surface drawing paper. This was the drawing I did in the car, and this was the painting that resulted from. It's not finished yet.
Right.
See, is that better?
Yeah.
Is that good?
And the painting.
It's still in progress, but
Right.
this is what resulted from this so far. I probably have another day or so worth of work on it. I have some surprises in this one that aren't in this one because I like doing something different in the painting than in the drawing.
Yeah, but what's going on in the head up there?
Huh? Up here?
Up there, yeah.
In this one, it's more of a kind of an abstract kind of shape that represents a face. But I'm not sure.
Everybody's just joining now.
Yeah, that's okay.
We're going to have to repeat ourselves.
That's all right. But I did.
Hopefully everybody had a good last weekend.
Yeah.
We were driving, and so we're too tired to do a stream last Saturday.
Yeah.
It's
But
Saturday night.
we were up in
Yes.
Pennsylvania where we got to see snow for the first time in a long time.
I know.
Yeah. So,
It snowed like heck.
and this is my EDO that went up.
That went
this one.
up, and you know what?
Hmm?
All right. So this is the second attempt at the EDO. Hello, everybody. So, everybody,
I started this before and got it to a point, and then
wait.
What?
Go ahead. Because I see it in there. I'm going to get it out of the garbage.
You can't see anything. It's all black. I painted it out.
No way.
Yeah. This is.
He destroyed
This
the piece.
This is all that's left of it. You can see like a shoulder here, or what? See, like, you see that? This was the first attempt. Of it.
So one of the things I wanted to make sure that look, he tore his piece of.
It was okay. I knew I was going to start it over. There was no reason to save something that I didn't think was working right. I had gotten to a point with it where I pushed it so far that I was having to fix things, and I realized that to fix it, to make it look like I wanted, would take longer than just to start it over again and do it again. So I just started it over and did it again, and ended up fixing all the problems that I had with the first one and changing some of the design a little bit more towards what I wanted. So it ends up better in the end if you have enough let's say fortitude, I guess you would say, to realize when you need to stop and start again.
Right.
Because
Sometimes.
sometimes you just can't push through everything. And even though I've used that technique before, in this particular instance, it didn't work the way I wanted it to.
No, what happened? Yeah, because what happened was you had the piece almost to this.
Yeah.
Almost
It
to
was
that
very
stage.
close to this stage.
Very close to that stage, and he used the
I
mixture
used
of
the matte medium.
matte medium and water.
For whatever reason, it not only did it cloud a little bit, sometimes that has to do with the humidity, I think.
Right.
But it also, more than normal, destroyed all the subtle values that were in the piece. And so to fix it, I would have had to have essentially redrawn it again on top of that. Without having the range of whites to go back and forth to. So I got to a point and I decided just to start it over again.
Yeah,
and
they ask if that's just eraser on powdered graphite.
Okay, so I took a pounce, which is just like a ball of cotton wrapped in cloth, a soft cloth, and I scrubbed graphite in on paper. This is Stillman & Burns paper, Zeta Series paper, so it's a really smooth surface. And I scrubbed it in as much as I could, basically. The whole page is actually pretty solid, dense. This might look black on the screen, but it's that graphite gray. It's as dark as graphite gets. And then I just erased back into it with this. And with I used a little bit of the hard abrasive erasers, and like where I really wanted white highlights and stuff, I went back into it with an electric eraser. Mm-hmm. So it really made it white.
Right.
And then worked back into it with my regular pencils and
Yeah,
stuff.
there's a lot of working back into
yeah.
it, like in the little details, especially
So,
her.
Yeah,
She can't
because
even see.
when I erased her, she was just kind of this mushy white silhouette. So I had to work back the detail back into her with a little bit of finesse. You know what I mean? You have to go back into it and push it just like you would if you were drawing on white paper. And also you have to use the eraser as if when you're subtracting, you have to use as much finesse with your eraser as you would with your pencil and lift up slowly.
Right.
You know, unless you know there's an area you want super white. Where the star shape was for her head, I made a stencil that I could use as an erasing shield, and I laid it over it and just kind of scrubbed it as hard as the shield would let. I don't
Do you have
it.
the Sakura eraser? The electric eraser he uses or he likes is the
Yeah, it's in my backpack.
Sakura.
Jiminy,
It's in the backpack.
I can get it real quick. But here, I'll let you look at the car drawing
All right.
thing.
The car drawing. And
There's more than one. I did like 3 starts of different ideas in the car. Let me get that eraser.
I know.
But
This is just him working in the car. Now, granted, we were in the car for 10 hours, but he wasn't, working for 10 hours straight since I was driving. There's the pencil. And the painting he's working on. Oil painting.
yeah, this is straight oil, so it's easy to see.
Mm-hmm. Different things going on in that one, though. It's not done either.
This is the Sakura electric eraser I like to use. It's really strong, powerful. I mean, I think you can use most of the electric erasers that are handheld like this. It's just that I started using these after, I guess in the 90s when Soriyama, the pinup artist, said that this was the most powerful handheld electric eraser, and I totally bought into it. So, but it is a very, when the batteries are fresh, it's a super strong eraser and it lasts for a long time. So I did this one in the car.
Yes.
which
And if
turned
you
into
guys
that.
have any questions, let us know. I mean, some people are asking questions.
That's okay.
They're saying they like the background on the oil piece.
Oh, thanks. So I started with gesso board on the oil piece, and I used like burnt sienna and raw umber acrylic, and then I kind of just did I brushed it around and made some texture and let it dry a little bit, and then I just took white, just an acrylic white, and I polished a little bit of the surface of the acrylic paint so it was a little bit smooth, and then I took acrylic white with a lot of water and drug it over the piece on a flat surface and let it bead up. So the acrylic white beaded up like this, and then I hit it with a hairdryer, and what that ends up doing is forcing the pigment to. It feels like it makes it a little more dense, so that it becomes a little more white. And now what you see here is like a layer of just like an alkyd black, the fast matte black thinned, with.
It's a lot of layers on that.
Yeah, I work in
It
a
kept
lot
changing.
of layers.
I have pictures of it in between. I'll have to put those up at some point.
I mean, I work in a lot of layers because I like to push the values that way. So yeah, that's pretty much how it happened. And then this was just done in straight oil.
Yes. And your inspiration? Do you have any? Oh, not for this one though. I know what the inspiration for the one you did yesterday was. Then we were driving back yesterday. Is that what the one you have?
Yeah, that's in here too. So.
He doesn't take classes. He does a lot of research online, and he just does a lot of.
If I see something I want to know how to do, I try my best to find it out.
Someone asked where you learned your skills.
Well, I've been doing
He's
it
been
for
doing
a
it a
long time,
long
so
time.
it's from a lot of experimentation and from reading a lot about how other artists do things and just sort of merging a lot of stuff.
So this guy, you started yesterday. I actually have video of you doing that.
Yeah, I started this in the car, and this is one of the. It was interesting because I drew this a lot, very much with the side of the pencil. It seems a little bit easier to control, rather than trying to, control the point of the pencil through all the bumps and everything. But you can do it either way as long as you're just willing to work at it and let it go. But
Alessandro asked if you draw every day. Yeah, you draw every day.
Yeah,
every day.
Yeah.
I was driving and he started this guy.
Yeah, and this was yesterday. So, and I actually started it and figured out that these horns. It's kind of funny. Where we were staying for this painting retreat, they had cattle, and one of the cows had
straight horns.
Had straight horns that came out straight instead of curved, and I just remembered that. So it started kind of right there with that because I like the idea of the straight horns.
Yeah.
And then I just did what I normally do, and I let it sort of grow and
because they were straight and now they've got some point to them.
Well, they've just got the ridges across the top, because why not, And after I did this, I started thinking about what I could possibly bring this shape into in other pieces, and I started playing with sketches for, like, you can see that it's the same shape. This same shape is here or here. It's either a vertical figure, or I was thinking of a sort of a kind of a demonic version of Sleipnir, the six-legged horse.
Yeah.
And then also I started this today in the car as we were coming back.
Oh, yeah,
and I'll most likely incorporate the details from this into another piece at some point.
Oh, but that one's got to be finished out there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll work more on this. This will be an end drawing in and of itself, but but just the shapes and stuff I like to play with. But anyway, so it's interesting.
Okay, pause. People are asking questions.
Yes.
Can I ask you some questions?
Sure.
Okay. Are there creature design inspirations? Sorry if it was asked. Well, these are your own creatures.
Yeah, well, by inspiration, I think I probably have internalized a lot of creatures that I've seen over the years, and I mean that's how that stuff works. You always have things boiling around in your head that when you remember them, you probably remember them a little bit differently than what they actually look like.
Sure.
Like if you think about this thing.
Ooh, careful!
It bent.
No, you didn't.
I'm just kidding. So, like this is sort of based on my memory of a Sphinx cat, but it's not really. I mean, I even pulled one up to look at over there, but I only glanced at them because I don't want to be too close to the reference. I just want to kind of have that feel.
Right, and then someone else asked, how do you keep from smudging the page? If
oh well, for this one it's not such a big deal because the whole page ends up being dark.
And then when you were working on this guy, though, that bull guy.
Yeah, and they do get smudged, but I mean,
you just erase back into it.
I either erase back into it or draw over it. The dark guy here, he gets more smudged on the opposite sheet of paper.
Look, see,
there's like a ghost image up there.
Right.
But anything that rubs off over here from that is really very easy it's very easy to erase.
And do you have a set? Someone asked if you have a set amount of hours you try to draw per day.
It's not so much a quota as it is until I feel good about it.
Okay. Right.
So if I get something done very quickly, like an idea for a painting or whatever, I don't need to take it as far. That may only take a few minutes, and it could go as much as if like a few hours. Like when I said, like, I could easily start a painting with this sketch now that I've done this because I know what I'm going to do with that. This is the shorthand I do for myself.
Is this just from HB pencil? Well, what pencil were you working on?
All day, and with the 6B. This whole thing, everything is done with the 6B.
6B.
Yeah.
Tombow Mono 100.
Yeah. Just this because I'm in a car and I don't have the option of grabbing hold of a lot of tools at once.
Sure.
So,
and that was
it was this. It was a Coombe long point sharpener, kneaded eraser, 6B, from beginning to end.
Mm-hmm.
So,
in the car.
In the car, and it's not as hard as people think unless you get
car sick.
Car sick. I just don't. I grew up in a car basically. We traveled a lot, so I don't really get car sick.
Right.
But it's still. I mean, there are times when the road's super rough and your lines they end up being very expressive. And this is sometimes I'll sketch and I'll just draw I'll try to draw the shadow shapes, because I know that I can find detail and the rest of it. And it doesn't mean that if I did the piece there would be nothing here. It just means that compositionally this is going to be this much darker than this.
That's what it would look like.
Yeah. So
Give it a little more light.
Yeah.
So you were going to show them how you draw with the side of your pencil.
yeah, I was thinking about this on the way back, and
Okay, no, it's not just 6B for all of his drawings. He just happened to have a 6B today. Usually you
my,
go from...
my general just drawing, like if I'm going to have one pencil with me, it's usually a 4B, but I was into 6B recently, so I started playing with that. 4B Tombow monos are kind of a good all-around darkness, and with your hand you can go from dark to light pretty easy with them. But so the one thing I notice when I draw from the side is I tend to draw more of the shadows than the shape first, but the shapes determine the shadows determine the shape, so it works out okay. But
They're getting demanding.
yeah, huh?
They're getting demanding. They want to see you draw.
Oh, okay. Well, what's funny is
Don't be too demanding, because if you ask him to draw all the time, he won't draw.
no, I
That's
will.
not true.
I'll draw some things. Actually, I drew that cat because somebody asked me to draw a cat 2 weeks
Oh,
ago.
that's right.
You know,
the lady
and I was
with the
like,
cat. She was
yeah.
like, draw a cat, draw a
And,
cat.
you know, obviously I can't just draw a regular cat. I have to draw
Yes.
that. But so when I was doing this, I realized that the way that I learned, or at least it occurred to me to start using the side of the pencil, because it's like a common thing. There are a lot of artists that draw from the side like this.
Yeah, it's not
and they
just-
teach you to do this in school quite a bit, but I never went to a school where they did this, so it never really occurred to me until strangely, there was a series called Heroes, and it had in it a superhero guy that could draw the future. And I noticed in one episode, one of the characters, I guess it was that character, was drawing with the side of the pencil, and I said, oh, that's interesting, I'll try that. And once I started doing it, I realized that, I liked it for certain things, you know, for quickly defining like shapes and shadows or whatever, you know. And I tend to draw the bottom side of things first, and then what I like to do though is like, okay, so this is a soft shadow, but if you go through and like put a few hard lines in, it starts to make everything look very intentional. You know, very. It makes it look more controlled than it might have initially been.
Okay.
You know.
Don't tell us what it is first, until we can tell what it is.
Oh yeah. Well, you know the way that I draw, that might not be till 2 days from now. I don't.
That's true.
You think I know what this is right now?
Yes, you're supposed to have it in your brain already, right?
Oh really?
Oh, no.
No, that's not me.
No, this is how he's drawing now. He's not going to use his pinky to draw right now.
Not
He's
this
drawing
moment.
with the side of the pencil. You're going to have to hold on, David. So we were up on a painting retreat, and I was with you, and Very Spotty Internet. So if you guys had been visiting the Patreon, I haven't got anything uploaded, even though I had it lined up to do that, because I didn't do it before I got there, and it was kind of like, oh good, I got to order something, and then the internet would be on and off from my computer. So our Patreon is just under Alan Williams, and our website is down at the moment. Alan Williams.
Well, at least
Studio.
the order part of it is
The
done.
order part of it, you can always email me.
So this looks like a face to me, actually.
A little bit.
It started out, I didn't even see it until I put these 2 spots here.
Yes. Someone asked what courses you took at the university. Fine
I
art or
think
illustration? Or
I had a little bit of both, fine art, like graphic design stuff, graphic illustration, and fine art. I went to basically just a regular liberal arts school, so they didn't really care much for what I was doing in the fine art department because they wanted abstraction mostly. And in the I did okay on the illustration side because I was really into doing super tight illustration at that point, and that's what they were into. So I did okay there, but I was told pretty early that if I wanted to do the kind of work that I was doing, that what they were teaching wasn't really going to help me much because they were, I was already starting to get work doing fantasy illustration and kind of dark stuff and horror. I did a lot of work with White Wolf early on, and TSR when it was a magazine, when Dragon Magazine was still a physical publication.
Yeah.
And then I did, I started doing magic cards and stuff like that. And then gradually over the years, right around 2000, I guess 2002, I started really pressing myself to have a stronger work ethic. And then over the course of the next 10 years, started really pushing myself towards my own work, the stuff I wanted to see. And that's kind of where everything comes from now is just that.
You still do some contract work.
I do
sporadically.
Well, and I do concept work, which is kind of it's contract work on steroids because the timelines are so fast and
Tight.
intense.
Someone asked if you smoke before you start drawing. He
No,
doesn't smoke anything.
if I were to smoke anything, I would be coughing constantly.
Yes.
I'm kind of allergic to smoke, actually.
He hardly drinks anything either.
Yeah. So
Other than coffee.
if you're asking if my ideas come from drugs, I think I would probably go nuts if I started doing something hallucinogenic.
Yeah, there's just all straight imagination.
Or I would transcend one or the other. So, but I don't have a problem with it. I just don't really. It's just something that I can't really work through very well.
No.
I have friends that do it though. Like they drink a lot when they draw, and that's cool. I don't really care. Whatever loosens you up. For me though, I like to be fairly in control of myself, and I get kind of rowdy when I start drinking. So
It's Saturday night. If we drank a lot, we would be out.
right. So
But we don't go out.
see, this is
Well,
this
we
is
do go out.
one of the things I wanted to say is like when I start working without thinking about what I'm doing, I usually do end up with something different than what I would normally do because I let myself just follow the path, whatever it is that I start following shapes until something happens. Like I normally wouldn't just start with the concept of kind of this round, flat, circular face, but that's just what sort of popped out in that kind of Rorschachian way that happens when you start playing with texture.
Mm-hmm.
So
Someone asked, how old were you when you got to the point where you were able to live solely off your art? We've been together for a long time, since '88. And I was working and he was doing his art and concept till I was working out of the house and doing another job and still doing some of his stuff. And he was working contracts and doing his own art till about 1998. And then I quit my job and started to work with you.
Mm-hmm.
So 20 years. 1998.
I guess I was probably, when it was just me, just the artwork that was supporting both of us,
Right.
was in 98, when I was working, making my own living, like I guess a single, that would have been, I started in 88 and probably 5 or 6 years, I had built up enough that I was making a fairly steady contract
Sure.
living, yeah.
And, if you're freelancing, it's kind of like a feast or famine. So you
Yeah.
keep moving and keep working and keep going.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have a lot of work and sometimes you have a little
So-
work. But if you have very little contract work, then you would still always work.
Yeah. I always did my own stuff, whether I was doing, the thing is that
You work a lot more now, though.
my philosophy, even more so now, but has kind of always been, if nobody's paying me to do something, then I'll do something that nobody can pay me to do. Like I'll put in like super amount, like lots of time on something and just, spend more time than than you're usually allowed from doing contract work, and that's just.
Yeah, I'll ask him. I'll say, "Can you just get this done? It just needs to be done in 3 days, so it wouldn't be done in 6 days.
Yeah,
But it would look good."
I have on occasion challenged myself with something like that, but I don't really like working towards speed. I like working towards the image, and the thing is like I think that speed probably comes when you really know when you're comfortable with your own process.
Right.
And so I was asked one time if I could work faster by another professional artist who was, really did a lot of contract work, and I'm sort of a little bit rebellious in that respect. So when he asked me if I could work faster, I said no, and I intentionally started slowing down. But the byproduct of that was that eventually I started getting faster because I slowed down enough to start understanding my process better, and I guess I got confident that I could find what I wanted to find.
Right. Yeah. This paper he's working on right now is just Strathmore medium weight drawing paper.
Yeah, it's just 400 series,
Yes.
And
then the one up here, the one he was showing earlier, is on Stillman and Bird Zeta series paper. He also likes Stonehenge cream journal paper.
Mm-hmm.
The pencil he's using is just a 6B. He's been playing with that the whole drive home.
Yeah,
So.
I got a whole box of 6Bs, and I just like grabbed a handful of them and was like, okay, well, this is, what I'm going to have in the car. So
Right. And yes, someone asked if you also work digitally. Yes, you do.
yeah,
I just put the sideshow piece up a couple of days ago. So
yeah, a lot of this stuff I do actually for commercial work is started in pencil and finished digitally for color, because they're usually are more changes that I'm comfortable making on original art.
well, and speed.
Yeah,
can
well,
move
and that,
speed,
well,
and you can change stuff.
I'm a little bit faster digitally,
Not that much.
Yeah, but
Do you prefer softer graphite rather than harder?
I do. I used to be the opposite. I used to work in like super, like everything from like 2H up to like 9H, which is like basically silver point. But I got to a point where I started getting bored with how smooth everything looks when you work with super hard graphite. And so the softer leads, they give you a lot more texture.
Okay, and here's Michelle, we get this question a lot, and it's have you ever had hand pain and made it hard to draw? We discuss this a lot, Michelle.
Yeah, and I don't actually get carpal tunnel in my hands. I don't get stress syndrome in my hands, and I think the reason being is because I switch tools a lot normally when I'm working on my desk. So I'll be using different size tools, and I work like this and like this. And the other thing that I do, and I didn't even think about this until over this last weekend, I always have an eraser in my hand, and I'm always doing this. I'm always like, with my one hand or the other, I'm always, even when I'm walking around town, I'll have one of these in my pocket, and I'm like constantly, squeezing these things like this.
Right.
So,
because you don't really, and then you also use really fat pencils too. I mean, the lead holders and everything. So it's, you change your hand, and you're also trying to get relaxed when you're doing it, right?
And sometimes I sit in my chair, like I'm sitting now, which is like almost like a recliner. And
you don't really want me to show them that.
And other times I'll stand up.
He's like,
I stand up.
like blobbed in his chair all the way over.
Like this desk is high enough that if I want to stand, I can work.
Your feet, you got your feet up too.
Yeah, up here. So what I noticed is that like this is one of those things where when you start playing with the side of the pencil, there's like little bits of texture that start
I'll get closer.
indicating like surface patterns of maybe skin or whatever, and I'll play with that, but this guy looks kind of like a gnome or something. I'm not sure what this is, but
Spit Pit was nice.
Yeah, this is a little more of narrative, kind of lyrical than I normally go, but I do sometimes do characters and things that look kind of rather fey.
Yeah.
And I have another, like a storyline that goes along with that, that I'll sometimes
There are so
write.
many stories. I'm constantly poking at him, you guys, because I love his writing. Spitbit said they like the dynamic between us.
Well, I appreciate it. It's fun. I mean,
is.
between the two of us. I mean, Vicky is probably the reason I can do anything professionally, because of her support and not just support, but actual hard work that she puts into everything that we do. Because if it comes framed, it comes from Vicky. If it makes it to you, it comes from Vicky. all I do is sit here and do the work. And we do have a different setup than a lot of artists. They have to do both jobs for themselves.
That's true. Any artist that is doing both my job and your job has to be given great kudos, because
there's a lot to do nowadays.
There is a whole lot to do. I could spend a couple hours working. I manage all of his social media, so if I know the answers to the questions, I'm answering your questions, you guys. If I know what pencil and paper he used and everything, if I don't, then it sits there and waits until I can ask him, and I'm doing the typing and he's sitting there telling me what to do. But I also do fun stuff like taxes and framing, ordering, printing.
This is just a shadowed kind of indication of the gesture of the body, and if I were going to continue to pursue this afterwards, I would, flesh out the scene a bit and probably, make the structure a little more on target, but it gives me enough to play with.
Do you ever work with Criterion pencils?
I haven't. I don't think. It doesn't sound like something I've used.
And have you ever considered illustrating a well-known story?
There's a story that I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I believe it's actually out of copyright, and it would be kind of fun to do. Somebody mentioned it with my EDO piece, and it's that I think it's called the Tinderbox, and it's
Yeah, will you pull this off my wrist? Yeah. I stuck my hair tie on my wrist and it's cutting the circulation off from my hand.
But I think the Tinderbox would be kind of a cool one to illustrate.
Yeah. But what motivated you to draw obscure things? Eduardo wants to know.
I don't. I guess it's a byproduct of the kind of stuff I like to read, which I read a lot of horror and fantasy, and I used to read when I was in school. I read a lot of stranger than fiction or stranger than that kind of stuff, like Ripley's Believe It or Not, and just it's the imagery that I guess
Freudian times, all this.
I think the thing that led me to it, I guess, would be that it's the freedom of changing reality a bit and stylizing it and playing with it and making. I mean, I like realism too, and occasionally I do work realistically. But
Tinderbox has the saucer-eyed dogs.
Yes.
Oh yes.
Yes, and it was actually, if you think about the Tinderbox, it's a strange story because it starts off with that
Wait.
general or the colonel, the guy that goes into the witch's lair where the dogs are, and he's doing it at the bidding of the witch.
I see. I don't like. I read other things, but I never read the Tinderbox.
But then
you keep telling me
he comes out and he basically kills the witch, and then he goes and kidnaps the princess every night for like this time and watches her sleep. It's really creepy, actually, if you think about it. And then he uses the dogs to kill her parents and make her marry him, or she marries him. But her parents are kind of horrible to her too. But I mean, it's sort of like a real dark story from beginning to end.
Oh, and have you ever taken inspiration from dreams? Oh yes, he does.
Yeah,
he has the. Yes.
I had a dream just recently.
Oh, wait a minute, hold on. I have to.
What?
Our Patreon is patreon.com, Alan Williams. And YouTube, which I'm behind in posting stuff on YouTube, is Alan Williams Studio. So you can see some of the videos there.
I dropped my pencil.
And our website is alanwilliamsstudio.com. But you'll have to email me through there if you're interested in anything there.
So I had this kind of strange dream recently where it was. My dreams are usually fairly easy to read, I think. This I had just last weekend. I was in a gallery, and Vicky was talking to the gallery owner, and I was jumping up and down, like straight up and down, like I don't know, like on my toes. And she started looking at me in the dream, and I could tell that something was wrong. And then I realized that every time I jumped, I was going higher, and like instantly I realized that I could fly. So I started flying around the gallery, but it wasn't high. It was about 6 or 7 feet off the ground. And then for some reason, the dream switched to the point where everybody was mad at me because I lost the paperwork for the gallery. So I have,
easy to read.
Yeah.
Some easy to read dreams.
No.
Fitbit asked, the story he described is not the one. The image you're describing is Foregone Kings, and that's the one with this girl standing in front of the skeletons. And
that's my story.
That is your story. There's a whole story that goes with that, which he has yet to write the whole thing, but it's very cool. So that's his own story. Mm-hmm. What kind of music? I'll have to stick your playlist up.
Yeah, I do have like a Google playlist, and then I have a YouTube music, like a YouTube Red playlist.
Yes.
But it's a little bit of everything.
Yes.
I listen to everything from like classical to kind of etheric Celtic to glitch and dub and all that stuff. And sometimes there's I don't know,
anything,
a little bit of everything.
Everything, yes. Throat singing.
Tuvan throat singing. I love it.
Came across that one day. I'm like, what are we listening to? Like, it's throat singing.
I think it's cool because
yes.
I've always liked that deep earth sound, like.
Okay, and someone else asked, oh man, where do you take your references? He takes references from anything and everything.
Yeah.
You take your own photos?
Sometimes I'll use myself in a piece if I need something, a detail. I have models that I've used in the past. Mm-hmm. Obviously for stuff like this, there's no reference that'll really work for it.
But if you need a reference, you'll take a photo of your own hand or
Yeah,
my hand
yeah.
or the kids. He's
And
used the kids.
I've recently started like sculpting a little bit of like maquettes and things for stuff I can't find reference for. I'll use like those posable doll things for reference. I have a couple of those ball jointed dolls that I'll pose and use and shoot just for basic figure reference sometimes.
Do you like woodless graphite pencils? You have some of those.
I do.
over there.
I like them a lot because they give you a really broad surface to work with. I just
I have some things on YouTube,
yeah.
but I don't have everything up on YouTube. Some of it goes straight to Patreon first, and then I'll release it to YouTube a little bit later. You can just follow us on Patreon, if you want, or you could throw some money in if you want. You don't have to.
It's like Patreon we try to keep everything fairly cheap because I want more people to be able to access it, and it's not how I make my living. So I do feel like it's a good way to,
It's a
supplemental
supplement
thing.
because the videos take a while though. If I
Yeah,
have to
but
video edit stuff and everything.
But it's also a very inexpensive way that people can get a lot of stuff at once.
Yes. Yes.
And then we do also we do stuff like this. We put this stuff is it doesn't cost anything and
Right. Time.
Yeah. It doesn't cost them anything is what I mean.
Yeah, that's true. That's time.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do you get attached to an idea you have in your mind, or at some point do you leave the pencil expression take control?
It happens both ways. There are
Yes.
times when I get very attached to a particular idea, and other times when I just have to give up and do what the medium wants me to do, whether it's graphite or oil or
and
whatever.
sometimes they fight too.
Yeah.
Or sometimes
There are times when the idea that I want just doesn't happen that way. And if it's a commercial thing, I have a more formal process. So it's not a question of trying to find a piece. It's a question of knowing what I'm doing before I start. So I use a lot more control in that respect. But when I'm doing stuff for myself, I'm willing to let go to find a better piece than the one that I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
And I'm also willing to let go if I'm just going in a different direction and it doesn't seem like it's working in one way or the other. But like I said, when you do concept work, you sort of have to stick to the brief.
Yeah.
And when you're doing book covers, it's like they don't like getting something that they didn't ask for.
They didn't ask for,
Yeah.
They go, that's nice, but that's not the route we were going to.
Yeah.
They've kind of decided those things for certain reasons, for very good reasons.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's got to work for the book,
Alessandro, I'm not sure. He says, do you often direct? But I'm not.
Do I direct what?
He said his English isn't good. His English is shit.
That's
so
that's okay.
That's okay.
Just say it as many ways as you can, and we'll figure out what you mean.
Right, exactly.
Have I art directed? Is that what you mean?
I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, I haven't really art directed anything but myself, if that's the question.
Well, how about one more question this other gentleman's asked?
Sure.
Or other person asks, if you take on a commission but can't find a flow with it, how do you push past the soul discomfort and just do it?
There's no easy way to do that. It's just you have to figure out what you're willing to do. When you take on a commission, you start off with the knowledge that you're going to produce something that it depends on if it's a book cover, you have to come up with pencils and give them brief ideas that will get everything started, and then just build on that idea. So it's almost like pre-programmed into the way that I do things, that if I'm starting with a commission, that I know that it's going to more or less be a collaboration rather than just me.
And you're talking contract commission. I usually don't have you take commissions from individuals and everything, just because I like for you to just kind of...
Right. So this thing will probably, if I'll play with it, which I probably will play with it just so I can show you where I would push everything to. After this is over, I'll probably take it to a finished point, just this area and everything. But it can go really dark, and the texture could get really kind of fun, just because of the way that
The paper.
Yeah, and I don't always draw like they tell you to draw across your forms. That's something I guess they say in school and in the books and stuff. And I do that sometimes, and especially if I'm looking at trying to create like a skin texture, because it seems like there's sort of a
Yes.
there's a momentum of rhythm that falls across flesh that seems to want to fall across the form like that.
Right. Oh, thank you, Eduardo, for watching us and everything.
So.
Okay. I hate Mona Lisa. You ready for this?
Hmm?
You know what? This is your question. He says, okay, so I've been making art for many years and never really found a consistent look or never got a solid clientele, and I'm thinking of giving up. Do you have some advice to help me make a living at it?
Well,
you have had many. At one point, he's had a lot of different looks. This is not the way it looked in 1992.
My consistency only really started happening in the last, like, I'd say 10 years.
Yes,
of everything.
I would say.
So
8 to 10 years.
But what I actively did was I looked at the things that I like to look at and tried to find out. I tried to like dissect it, mentally deconstruct it, and figure out what it was that I liked about it. And I feel like whatever it is that you like in the work that you look at is what you probably want to be bringing into the work that you do.
Like if you like certain things about Beksinski's or Chet Zar's work, then
or Giger or
right,
you know,
not that you're
Waterhouse or whoever.
Not that you're imitating their work, but those aspects of it that you like about their work, whether it's subject matter or.
So
is that
it's interesting. Yeah, it's so interestingly enough, like somebody like Giger was probably likely influenced, and I think I might have read this at some point, by the German artist Hans Bellmer, or Bellmer, Belmer.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go back and look at, if you Google Hans Bellmer, whether you do it on regular Google or you go to Pinterest, you'll see a lot of themes that he had in his work that repeat itself in some of Geiger's work, and not in any way that's copying, but in a way that's sort of an evolution.
Right. So I hope that helps. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with if you have another job and you're just doing your art.
Yeah,
and,
in terms of being a professional, as long as you can keep your style at a professional level, and
at one point we'd had people come into our booth, and it looked like there was 3 different artists work in it because your styles were very different, but it kind of coalesced. It took a while,
and it did have a lot to do with starting to understand my own process,
right,
and what I liked to do, and
right.
They used to say, and I found this for the most part so far to be true, that drawing and painting are kind of the same thing, and the more time you spend drawing, the better your painting will be. And I feel like, even though I haven't done nearly as much painting as I have drawing, but what little I've done, I felt like it has proven that to be true.
Yes.
So.
All right, Sebastian is asking that he is a student.
Mm-hmm.
And last year interning at Disney, but he wants to go freelance like you.
Mm-hmm.
My teachers say to work at a big studio after school for stability. Thoughts?
Well, in terms of drawing a steady paycheck, they're probably 100% right.
That is true.
If you're in a position financially where you don't have to rely on a consistent paycheck, going freelance, it takes a while to build it.
You're welcome. I hate Mona Lisa.
But the thing is that it all depends on what you're
right.
you're willing to deal with.
Freelance it's not a steady paycheck. It's like feast or famine. At one point we would make 70% of our year's income in 3 months, and then we'd have to kind of write it out, and we'd still get little bits and stuff, but it just depends. You have to kind of decide.
There's nothing wrong with doing both.
Yeah, there's nothing. Yeah, exactly. You can work at a studio, and
I worked for a game company briefly for like 2 years, and I did more contract work when I worked for the game company than I did when I was freelancing before that. And I think it was because I really desperately wanted to kind of have my own thing going at the same time. And the whole thing is, so of course it is bound by I guess your professional level. And your skill level in terms of maintaining freelance.
Mm-hmm.
So, you got to be honest, if you have the skill set, if you got the skill set to do it, and the realization that if you work freelance, it's a kind of a 24/7 thought process. Even if you're not sitting at the desk 24 hours a day, your waking hours, you're usually thinking about the work you got to do.
Mm-hmm. Boy, I saw that this week.
Yeah. Usually people
don't. A
don't.
bunch of different artists in there. They were all.
Yep. People don't often realize that it physically and mentally, it's more demanding to work freelance.
To work for yourself as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Everybody always goes, "Oh, I'd like to work for myself." It's like, well, buckle up, baby.
Because you don't ever really your mind doesn't ever really leave the work alone once you start doing it for yourself.
Right.
You know, at least in my experience, and the other professionals that I've talked to seem to support that.
Now, Spitbit says one positive way to look at inconsistency, quote unquote, is that you're versatile and that there are many paths you can take with commissions. One person might like one thing and another person might like another.
This is true.
That is exactly
What
true.
what I would advise you to do is build separate pages if you're having a website that showcase
Yes.
those individual styles. And when you do
Yes.
something in one style, put it on the page that showcases that style. That way, if an art director looks at it for freelance work, they'll go, I want this style you're displaying here, you know,
Right.
and so you'll know what they're talking
Right.
about, you know. So,
You are welcome, Sebastian. He says you're the best.
oh no,
I can't believe you answered.
just don't stop. You know,
Yeah.
if it's in you to do it, don't stop doing it. I mean,
Right.
it'll be hard. Don't let anybody tell you it's not hard, because it is.
It isn't easy to go freelance and to find the work. And a lot of people go, how do I find the work? I'm like, you just keep looking. Yes, we'll be at Monsterpalooza. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Our booth is 351, which will be near the entrance. We'll have a larger booth. And that's what I'll be doing all this week. I have to figure out print things,
Framing for
frame things,
Monsterpalooza.
pack things, ship things. Good. I'm glad you won't stop.
Yeah.
Sebastian won't stop.
And email us anytime if you wish.
Yes.
You know?
If I don't answer, it's hard to answer all this stuff on Instagram. You can always email me through our website or victorialtw@gmail.com.
I think probably the number one reason why I do what I do is probably because I didn't have enough sense to quit when other people might have quit. You know, I never had a safety net. I never said to myself
No.
that I'm going to do this, but I have this to fall back on. I actually literally remember thinking this when I went to a 2-year college for a while doing art, and I remember thinking this as I started. I said, I'm going to do this or I'll starve to death, one or the other. And that's kind of the way I've always approached it, you know.
Yes.
So, but I have been versatile in what I've done, in terms of like I've done contract work, freelance stuff, book covers, game design, game illustration,
Gaming. Someone asked you-
mobile browsing games, and concept art for
Yes,
film.
They asked if you enjoyed working at the game company. For a while.
There were parts of it that I did enjoy. It was a mobile-based game, and mobile, like your phone, like what is it? They used to do Facebook games, and it was fun for a while until it started getting like very, I don't know how to say it other than corporate. They started making decisions that were like, it had less to do with how fun something was and whether or not more was based on like they wanted to do casino games, which was just basically coming up with slot machines over and over again, and that wasn't something I was interested in doing. They paid well, but it was just too draining on me mentally. I'd rather like make less money and do something I'm happy with.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
But I see people working on games that I know I would love to have worked on, like Doom or or any of the games that have insane creature design. That would have been really fun. I never worked with a console game company, which I thought maybe that might have been fun at one point either.
But he likes to do his own thing.
You know what's funny about
But that's why when people go, do you take commissions? I don't usually slot people in for commissions, because if someone told you I need a little squat guy with big ears that's walking through a swamp or something, I don't know that you would have come up with this. But someone might like this drawing you're doing right now.
I don't know. Yeah, it just sort of happens that way, and I maintain too that when you're on the spot, like on film, you make different decisions. Like I said, I probably never would have drawn this, but this is what happened, and so in order to keep things moving, I went with it. But I don't really have a problem with it. It's like it's just a little atypical for me. He looks a little too happy. He looks a little too happy.
He looks too happy. We have about 5 minutes. Okay, so. Yes, we'll be at Monsterpalooza, and yes, we will see you there. I will, if you're coming. It's in Pasadena. It is a fun show. It's a really fun show. So, and both of us will be there this year. We've got someone to watch the kids and visit our Patreon and visit the Facebook page is Alan Williams Art.
And there's a YouTube page too.
If you want to buy a drawing or something, you can email me, victorialtw@gmail.com. You can always message me through Instagram. It's just sometimes sometimes the messages get buried. We'll get a bunch of messages at once and stuff. So if I don't answer you, poke me back because I've got a lot of emails.
And if you have a question that we haven't answered, you can always email us.
Oh, please do. Yes. Or ask us on the feed because I'll post something tomorrow. I have that little video of you drawing. I should post that tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I guess he's a gnome of some kind or something. I don't know.
Yes. And if I don't have all the drawings up on I am a jack of many trades, unfortunately, or I have many jobs. I wear many hats in this. So if you don't see the drawing, or if you're interested in the drawing he's working on now, message us through here. So I'll have prints and originals. I have originals that aren't even up on the site.
Yeah.
See.
But we'll have a lot of that stuff at Monsterpalooza too.
Right.
So, and that
Jim, I'm sorry I haven't emailed you back. Either that or I was in the middle of it. Like I said, my computer was. There we go. We're back. Sorry, I pressed a button. I'm sorry, Jim. I will, or JM, if I haven't emailed you, I will email you back and everything.
We've been, traveling for the last week.
Oh yeah, the email is Victoria VICTORIA LTW @gmail.com. You can go to our website, AlanWilliamsStudio.com, and when you email us through that, it goes straight to me, or on Facebook, or here. So you're going to get me anywhere. So if you just message through Instagram, it'll go through here. He doesn't do tattoo designs. Some people have taken his stuff and done tattoos, but he doesn't make tattoo designs specifically. Thank you guys for all your compliments. They've been very sweet.
And thank you for watching.
Absolutely. I'm going to pass out. You're going to probably work all night, aren't you?
For a while, yeah.
Okay.
And only until like daybreak.
Oh, the artist that influenced Geiger was Hans Bellmer, Belmer.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it.
He did a lot of line art, and some of it borders on, well, it doesn't border. Some of it's downright erotic and fetishist kind of stuff. But you've seen Geiger's work, so you kind of know the score. So,
yes.
But it's interesting to look it up because you'll see some themes that are that are similar in their work, even though the style is a little different.
Yes.
The rendering style.
All right, we're going to wrap this up. There was something else I wanted to say. I don't remember what it was. Email us if you have any questions, or just put it on a post if you have any questions and everything. I'll see, hopefully we'll get to all your questions. And if we don't, or what I was going to say is, I apologize if I know someone said English wasn't their first language, and I apologize if I don't understand the question. Just ask it again in a different way, or I will try to figure out what you mean, because I appreciate you guys.
Or even send it to us in your language, and we'll try to figure out a translation that'll work.
Yes, because Instagram doesn't translate. Isn't that terrible? So, but you can always email us. So we will see you guys next week, next Saturday. And we'll talk to you later. Toodles. Back
Thank you.
to you.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye, Chris.